Hey everybody, welcome to this episode of the GMB Show. On this episode, it's my pleasure to have the Kavadlos on the show. Grace and Al, how you guys doing?
Hey, how are ya?
I'm good. So today, actually, we've got Grace on. And the reason why is we're going to be talking about some of the differences between men and women when we're training. Yeah. But first off, for those of you who don't know much about Grace, can you just give us a little quick intro about yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm a personal trainer and group fitness instructor here in New York City. And basically, I specialize in calisthenics. That's my favorite. I took Al's PCC certification and became completely obsessed with body weight training. Big fan of the GMB brand as well, man. Thank you for those tutorials. They are amazing.
Thank you. I'm going to ask you a big favor. If you could squeeze a little closer to Al so we can get you in frame there. Thank you so much. So today's topic, over the next 20, 30 minutes, we're going to be talking about some of the differences between men and women in training. And so just right off the bat, I think it's really cool that the two of you are training together. My wife, love her to death, but we don't really exercise together. That's another thing. We do enjoy snowboarding together, but we don't work out together. That was just kind of our thing in order to make sure that our marriage was okay. But
it might have been a good decision, actually.
It's true.
Yeah, but I want to know a little bit about that. As far as you guys, when you're working out, do you, the majority of the time, are you working out together? Do you separate things up? I'd really like to hear a little bit more about how you guys do things.
I feel like a lot of the time the best workouts that we have together kind of happen somewhat spontaneously. Like not, okay, Tuesday at 4 o'clock, we're going to do this workout, but we're just kind of in the living room and just, Grace will start messing around with, oh, I saw this move on this YouTube thing, let me try it. And I'm like, oh, that's cool, let me try it. And then before I know it, like, we're just going off and trying a whole lot of stuff. Sometimes when we try to go into it, I feel like with too much of a plan, then we start like arguing about, no, I want to do this thing, you don't want to do that thing. So we just have to just treat it like playtime.
It's true. And then we'll like branch off and do our own thing. I guess we do a mix of both, We do a little bit of like, we focus on like, okay, we're going to work on these exercises. Okay, great. And then we'll kind of like, he'll be like, coach me on this one, like to hold each other accountable and whatnot. So it helps, having another pair of eyes on your form. And, sometimes I get bitter when he tells me something, too much critique on my form, but, but most of the time it's good.
Grace was a lot more open to my coaching before she was my wife.
It's true.
It's funny how that happened.
No, I've heard a lot about, that's a lot. There's, being in Japan, a big thing with the language, of course. There's the language difference. And a big thing, it's kind of like this unspoken rule of sorts, I guess, that if you marry a Japanese person, then you don't really become their language instructor. So you kind of make sure that it's not that. And so I'm saying
what
this
if you were the language instructor first, though?
Well, you know what? That's kind of a difficult one, I guess, and I guess you'd kind of have to draw that line. But it is good to see the two of you being able to do this. And something to come back that you said, kind of play and not have it so structured that kind of drive you crazy. Along those lines, what are some of the things that you do like to practice together? Now, obviously calisthenics and things like that, but let's say maybe there is a particular move, Al, that you're working on, and then maybe Grace, like you said, you help them out. How does that work? Can you guys spot each other? Or, when you're doing things like that? A little more in depth, I guess, is what I'm asking because, as we go into our chat today, some of the differences between men and women, there might be some major ones, but I don't think that there's a particular thing that a woman can't do, that only men can kind of do. And I'm interested to kind of hear as far your thoughts regarding like particular skills that you might be working on, Al, that Grace, maybe you're interested in doing as well.
I feel like what you're saying, the two things kind of go together because, obviously men and women do have somewhat different abilities and certain things that might be better tailored to their natural body type or what have you. And a lot of stuff that Grace and I work on together tends to be stuff where our playing field is kind of even.
Okay.
Grace is really, really strong in her upper body, but I'm stronger than her in the upper body, and it's because I'm a dude and I have testosterone and stuff. So sometimes if we're doing pull-up workouts together, she'll get frustrated because she can't keep up with me. But we do something like back bridges or handstands or squats, and then it's like we're pretty even on those things. So those are probably the things that we train together the most, I think.
No, it's true. And even just today, he was like, he like set a, like, well, he'll set like a challenge. Like he's all of a sudden really into working back bends and back bridges and whatnot. So well, he's like, oh, he did it. And I was like, and I've been kind of neglecting my own practice too with that. Like I feel like the stronger I got in my upper body, I lost a little bit of that flexibility. Okay. And so he just kind of like, we're gonna start working on bridges. And I was like, all right, me too, I'm in, you know? So it's very like motivating, I guess, you know?
Well, it goes back to the conversation you and I were having last week, Ryan, about, you know, working those basics and continuing to refine them. People out there might be surprised, like Al thinks he needs to work on his bridge. His bridge looks pretty good, but it's like, no, I got to really get it perfect. Like that's my new obsession. Right. It's like my bridge has to be next level.
Well, that's cool, you know, and just listening, because Grace, I know, because you got a fantastic bridge, you know, I've seen pictures and things, so that's cool, because Al, that's a good motivation, you know, motivational tool for you, you know, to do that, and likewise, switching it up. Let's go back and talk a little bit about some of the differences, and Al, you mentioned, you know, obviously, we've got a little bit more testosterone than the females, a lot more, right? But what are some other, like, major differences that you see that I don't want to say that would necessarily hold a person back, because I don't want to make it a negative, because I think there are certain things where women are better. Like a good example, rock climbing. One of my favorite rock climbers, I'm going old school here, Lynn Hill. Now, Lynn Hill, this is way back, you know, late 80s, early 90s. She was amazing. And she credited her climbing to the fact that she didn't quite have you know, obviously the similar build as the men. She's a very small lady. And so she was focused more on using her legs better in order to help her climb and things like that. So if we can, you know, talk a little bit about the two of you when you're working out, some of maybe the things that you see, the major differences when working similar skills, and how you need to maybe make some adjustments or change things up in order to make it work better for the both of you.
You know, one thing that I find is with the handstand stuff, something that I've been working on a lot, and part of why I want to do so much more bridge work is, you know, if you want to get a really straight handstand, your shoulders have to be really, really open, a lot more than I think people realize. And I know for me as a guy, that's a challenge. Whereas I don't think that's as much of a concern for a lot of women when they do handstands. I know it's not as much of a concern for Grace, but conversely, you know, I can hold it for longer. I can do handstand push-ups. She's pretty good at handstand push-ups too, but the strength for women sometimes on that can be more of the challenge. And also, you know, Grace has much better mobility in her hips and her hamstrings. She can get up into it easier. I have to do like a bent arm press or kind of kick explosively. And that's the other, you know, thing that's still kind of like, you know, lingering out there for me to one day conquer, is that straight arm press to handstand.
So basically, I guess, you know, really just from what you said there, generally, Nate, is looking at flexibility compared to strength. And so this is something that I do find, you know, with a lot of my students as well. A couple of the GMB trainers out there, I'm just like, I wish I had that flexibility kind of thing, you know. But do you find this as well, like Grace, when you, not just you, but when you're working with your clients and your students and things like that, looking at the women compared to the men, is this a general thing that you find?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Like the women, like there's women that I have that, you know, find themselves, they're there for weight loss, we're working on that. But then it's like they'll do a bridge and like they'll just pop right into it like nothing. And I'm like, girl, do you know what you just did? Like that's amazing. And to them, it's like something that they've been able to do like forever. And then contra, I have like a man doing that, you know, who's deadlifting big amount of weight and we're squatting and doing everything, but he finds the bridge to be a big challenge, you know, like that. I guess all the muscle in the front is like, I guess, a little bit inhibiting for doing.
More pulling you back the other way that you have to oppose.
Yeah, exactly. And just naturally flexible women are like, and they're stronger in their legs, like they're super strong in their squats. Pistol squats are a challenge, though, for everybody, I feel, like across the board. But I find like I've been able to teach it successfully to women before, faster than I have to a man, actually, for some reason. So,
You know, I think something that you said too is kind of interesting, the psychology of it. She mentioned a lot of these women can do a bridge and they don't think it's a big deal and they don't want to play it up. Whereas sometimes a guy will get a PR and it's like, I just did this thing, I'm so awesome.
it's
Oh yeah.
true.
Whereas
Oh yeah.
I think you tend to see more modesty from female clients. And sometimes it's almost detrimental because we were talking about
Yeah.
this before. Sometimes women don't think they can do things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, okay, we're going to work on a push-up. I'm like, really? A push-up? Isn't that a guy's exercise? Can I do that? Little old me? And it's like, yeah, little old you could do that. Absolutely.
No, and that's a really good point, you know, and I think which actually kind of lead into the next question that I had, are looking at some of the goals maybe. And again, I'm not trying to say the guys and, you know, and gals should have different goals, but I think simply the fact that a lot of women think that they can't do a particular, or they maybe shouldn't be doing something, actually changes the way that they look and perceive particular goals. And so, you know, what, like when you're working, going back to some of your clients, Grace, you know, when you're working with them, I'm interested to hear what some of their goals are. And I'm sure in your case that you're helping to change their mindset and letting them know that, you know, they can do anything out there. But I'm interested to hear, like, when you have people who come in, what are some of the general kind of ideas and goals that they're after?
Well, you know, I work at a big box gym, and a lot of my clients are working professionals. So they don't really have per se a specific fitness goal yet.
Yeah.
So when I do the initial assessment, it'll be more like, I want to lose weight here, I want to tone up, you know, not much
They
talk
don't
of
want
I
to
want
work
to
on a pistol
build
squat.
muscle or get my first pistol squat, you know. But so you know, as I work with them, I kind of try to draw them out. But I know automatically off the bat, most women, every woman needs a prescription of push-ups and pull-ups or some variations of either movement, you know, because that tends to be, I don't want to say a weak link, but a less strong link in the chain. And I feel like once they kind of start to dial up that upper body matching the lower body, you know, strength, I feel like it, you know, they become more balanced, you know, and every woman should be able to do several push-ups, you know, every woman should be able to do at least one pull-up. That's a big game changer, big game changer. So
I think a lot of the time too, with when you take a female who kind of comes into it with a little bit of a meek attitude and you get them to the point where they can do a pull-up, it's really empowering. And you start to see that confidence taking over in other parts of their lives. You know, it's unfortunate, like a lot of time in our culture, you know, it's less and less the case now, you know, moving into 2016, but, you know, women are often put in a situation where they feel like they can't be, you know, the dominant person, or they can't speak up. And when they get to have that experience in the gym where it's like, all right, I can, or in the park if you're not training in a gym, you know, I can do this thing. I am a powerful person. It can sometimes have a very deep inner change, as well as the outward manifestation of their arms looking better or getting more toned.
Oh, heck yeah. Yeah. Because it's all about looking good naked, right?
that's right. What else?
And the more confident you are, that helps you look better naked too, right?
That's true.
Absolutely right. And, I mean, this is really good, and of course, you know, all of the three of us, it's preaching to the choir right here. But I mean, you know, why are we doing this? It isn't just so that we can do more pull-ups or something like that. It's having that, like we like to talk about in GMB, that physical autonomy in being able to not own your body, but like get a better understanding of it, so you can do the stuff that whatever you want, whether it be to exercise more if that's really what you want to do, or to go out and, you know, enjoy surfing or whatever. Really doesn't matter. I think this is really good as far as looking at women and the men. What would you say though is, besides testosterone, things like that, the biggest difference as far as getting women to exercise? Because, you know, there's a lot of guys and they'll go and they're like, yeah, I need to go to the gym and the kind of thing, in which I'm not into. But I don't see a lot of women doing that, you know?
Well,
they're not like...
I feel like it's less about getting women to exercise and more about getting them to embrace strength training.
Yes.
Because I think there's a lot of women who jog or take a spin class or
just
maybe
do classes.
do like little pink dumbbells and but to really embrace real true strength training is what's missing from a lot of females. I think actually there's probably more women in most gyms than men. They're just not
It's not
in the
doing
strength
it.
training areas.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I could totally see that. It's the case over here in Japan as well. And sometimes I'll go to the gym, and whether it be me teaching a class or something like that, and that's pretty much what it is. And you're right, it's not over in the strength area using the weights or whatever. It's mainly doing the classes and things. And I don't think that's wrong. I just think it's interesting that it's a lot different. I'm typically the guy who wants to go to the classes because I've never done that kind of stuff, and I'm always looking to try new stuff. But hey, that's me.
Yeah, I got nothing against taking a class.
Yeah.
Grace and I have both taught fitness classes.
Yeah, that's right.
Definitely
That's
nothing wrong
right.
with
Yeah.
that.
Do they have Zumba in Japan?
Zumba's big right now. It really
Is
is.
it?
You know,
Yeah.
and it's funny because there's a lot of people who rip on Zumba and stuff like that, and I'm like, hey, I think it's great if it gets somebody off the couch, if it gets them moving, if they enjoy it. Hey, do it.
And maybe it
I
will
think
be
it's
a
great.
gateway to do some strength training, right?
Right?
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
Maybe after the Zumba class, a trainer will approach them and say, "Hey, can you do a push-up? You want to try? You want to
Exactly.
learn
I
how?"
like that.
And it's a nice way to supplement the training if they already are doing strength training. Like all my clients, I encourage them like, oh, can I do this class? I'm like, yeah, go do jogging Pilates or whatever it is you want to do, like do it, Like I think any way to move, like you were saying, is just so important, to get them accustomed to the fact that it's not a hobby, it's like a habit,
Yeah,
So.
yeah, that's good. Yeah, it's something like, Al and I were talking about the other day. You get to do it. You've got this body. You get to do it.
Yeah.
Let's see how you can be better at being in your body. So I want to know, it's, 2016 now. What about you? Where do you want to go? What is your vision for women in training, Grace? That's what I want to know.
For all women in general? Or
Yeah, sure. Well, yourself. Let's hear about yourself. What are some of the things like now, as we're in this new year, what do you want to do with it? Where do you want to go with it?
I guess I found a lot of yang in my training. I went that whole strength training route. I'm like, yeah, I've been able to do a 1-arm push-up. Yeah, I got my pull-up numbers up. But now I'm trying to kind of reel it back and use the female aspect of it, that yin, that flexibility. Because I'm seeing these girls that are doing pole dancing. I don't want to do pole dancing specifically, but they're doing human flags and they're just super flexible. And I need to kind of go back and use like my natural flexibility that's, and start to kind of combine it with my strength training, just make it completely more well-rounded. And I guess for most girls, I just want them to just be doing more strength. I mean, I guess more women have to go the other way. They have to do more strength training for sure. And I think calisthenics and like body weight training is just a gateway to that, It's like a intermediate between not having to lift a ton of weight and just use your own body weight to like, express movement and be graceful and, get stronger.
No,
So.
it's funny to hear you say that because we were just talking before about how most women need to do the opposite. But Grace was that person years ago
there.
and then said, I'm going to just get really, really strong. And now she's kind of turned into a dude a little bit.
Yeah.
Where she's really, really strong
I'm
and she
losing
needs
a lot of my flexibility.
needs to get the flexibility back.
But that's good. And, actually, it just reminded me of talking about cycles, and looking at, whether it be in nature or anything, it's focusing on that one thing in order to get better at it, and then going back and focusing on the next thing that you need. So it's that balance, finding that balance. And this is something I'm talking about all the time with people because, like Alan and I talked about the other day, everyone wants to do, I want to get my planche, my handstand, my 1-arm chin up, and then I also want to do this at the same time.
And run a marathon. And
Yeah, exactly, right? Like, okay, good luck with that. But yeah, that finding that balance, and I really like that. And you're a great example of the anti-chick, if you will, where it's mainly the women right now are like, I need to get strong. I need to get this particular thing, where now you're finding that you're going back. And I think what's really cool, and once again, something Alan and I did talk about, was whenever you go back to the basics, you're not dropping down to go to the basics, but you're moving back up. And so as you come into the basics, you're rediscovering these basics on a new level, right? So my question for you then is, what is really kind of like your go-to movements? And obviously, everybody's going to have some different things. And I'm kind of veering away from a little bit of the basics because, looking at the basics kind of, I think some of the basics should be similar to everyone. But as far as you, when you go back to your your flexibility work, or maybe you go and just want to work on something that day, enjoy it, work on your strength. What are some of your go-to moves?
I think a couple of the moves that we do a lot just from ability throughout the day are just two of the most basic moves from yoga, the up dog and the down dog.
Everything.
And then you get your whole front chain and your whole back chain, and you could really target if you want to do that down dog and focus on your hamstrings. You could really put it in your hamstrings. If you want to put it in your calves, put it in your calves. You want to put it in your shoulders, put it in your shoulders. And the up dog, same thing. You can get your neck, you can get your chest, you get your abs, you get your hip flexors, you get your quads. So I mean, you really don't have to, like you said, you don't have to get too complicated. Those two basic stretches, which most people will do like in their first day of yoga.
Yeah.
I mean, those are things we've both had those in our repertoire for a long time. And I still feel like a beginner when I do a down dog. If it's the first one of the day and I'm cold, I'm like, ooh, calves are tight today, trying to walk it out.
Yeah, those are good ones. What else? Holding.
Twist holds are always good. Always
Cool.
putting those in. And the bridge, of course, we were talking about that earlier. Like that's one that I didn't really start doing a lot of bridge work until later on in my training. Pull-ups and push-ups I did as a kid. Pistols I started doing in my early 20s, but I never really took bridging seriously until my 30s. And of course, by that point, I was pretty tight already. So I feel like I have a long road to undo that and to really try to catch up to some of the other skills. So anything that can help the bridge is definitely something that we're going to keep working on, something I'm going to keep working on.
Yeah. Bottom of a squat. Bottom of a squat is always good. Hanging out in the squat as much as, those are pretty much like our basic like mobility stretches,
That's good. So, all right, let's I'm going to wrap it up here, but I'm going to kind of throw a couple questions at you. And what's the secret as a couple to keep working out together?
You have to like it, right? And I think it's really a delicate thing because you can't pressure the other person.
Yes.
There are some mornings where I'm more of a morning person than Grace. She needs to have her coffee. I wake up, I'm like, let's train, let's do this, blah, blah, blah. I'm like all over the place. And I've learned to kind of back off. All right, just everything. You had your coffee? Okay, let's go train, let's do our thing. So I have to try to not be too much of a aggressor with this sort of thing and just kind of like, oh, you want to, like I said before, the workouts that we have that are the best are just very casual and just, oh, I saw this thing, I want to try this, and before you know it, it's a training session, not a pre-planned one.
Yeah. We discuss some of the moves beforehand, let's see what we're working on. And if we have similar goals or similar moves that we're working on, then, we try to coach each other through them, And again, I have to get better at taking his criticism because I know he's got a lot of knowledge. But sometimes I'm like, I don't want to hear it. I just want to move,
I'll tell you, Ryan, sometimes she'll be watching one of your videos and she'll be like, oh, I got this really great pointer from Ryan. I'll be like, I gave you that same cue and you didn't want to hear it.
I didn't even hear it. I didn't even hear it when he said it. I'm like I don't remember. I know Ryan said it for sure.
Oh, that is hilarious. Selective listening, right? I love it. Oh, that is so awesome. Well, I apologize, Al. I hope I didn't put straight on you.
I'm glad that it's you. There's other people who would annoy me, but if it's you, I'm like, all right, good. Listen to Ryan. He's a good coach.
He is. He got great
he knows what he's
videos,
doing.
man. Seriously.
That cracks me up. I love it. And I completely forgot my next question. I was leading into this, but here we go. So looking at men and women, I'm going to ask you this, Alan, and Grace. This is one for you. So what is your advice for a guy, and what is the advice for a gal if you're just getting back into movement, exercise, whatever you want to do? Where do you think you should start, and what kind of mentally your approach? What should it be? Al, you and I kind of talked about this the other day, but love to hear your ideas about this.
We've been talking a lot about the differences, but my advice would really be the same to both people in the beginning, which is just focus on squats, push-ups, pull-ups, being consistent. What do you think?
For the men, I would say embrace the bridge. And for the women, I would say work towards that one pull-up, man, and get those push-up reps in. Those were big game changers for me. And they do make you get abs, man. They're so that. I hate girls always what exercise can I do to do my abs? I'm like, push-up, pull-up, let's go do it,
Nice.
So definitely that, yeah.
Yeah, I feel like when Grace and I train people, a lot of the time we give them like targeted specific ab work just to appease them.
It's true.
Yeah.
We know
Yeah.
they're working their abs doing all these other moves, but it's like, all right, you want to feel a burn right here. We're going to give you that. Fine, here it is. You
Leg
know?
raises.
Oh, that's good. I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, guys, for being on, and it would be great to have you guys on again another time.
It's been a pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. Looking forward to talk again, and keep having fun. That's where it's at, right?
Thank you, Ryan, for having us,
right.
man. What an honor, dude.
Thank you so much. All right, listeners, until next time, stay cool. For more great info, join us over at gmb.io, and be sure to check us out on iTunes and YouTube.